First anger over coronavirus pandemic. Now outrage over border dare. Boycott Chinese goods clamor grows. From social media to celebrities. Reject China call gets louder. Can India hit back a bullet? That's our top focus on India First.
Is it time for Swadeshi 2.0? That's a big question here on India First. Also on the show, military intelligence stings Pakistan's ISI. Two officials of the Pakistan High Commission, both working in the visa section, and their driver was stung by the military intelligence as they tried to glean military secrets. I'll get you that inside story. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Action-packed 30 minutes. It's now a clamour for Swadeshi. But before I get you that clamour for Swadeshi, where people are saying it's time for the people to start boycotting made in China goods, let's take a look at India's war on coronavirus. And as on date, there are 1,90,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus. 1,90,535 to be precise. 5,394 people have lost their lives, but India's recovery rate is heartening. 91,819 people have recovered so far. News just coming in, the army and the government have made it very clear that construction activity along the line of actual control and in Jammu and Kashmir will continue. This is the window for that construction activity. So road construction activity will continue, and for this 11 trains have been requisitioned by the Border Roads Organization. These trains will ferry road construction workers from Jharkhand to Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir. They'll also ferry them to Chandigarh, and from there some may be airlifted, others may be driven from Udhampur to Ladakh sector, also to Jammu and Kashmir. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Milan Sharma joining us with the latest on the story. Milan, what more can you add? 11 trains have been requisitioned so far.
Well, what we know from our sources, Gaurav, in the Railways Ministry is that 11 such trains have been requested by the Defence Ministry as well as the Ministry of Home Affairs, which could ferry these migrant labourers from the state of Jharkhand to the crucial areas near the Indo-China border. At this point, we know that the Border Roads Organization has been working on many of these projects that are important strategically for India. And this project construction was ongoing. However, during the lockdown, there was some stoppage in that. And now the ministry has written to the railways so that the labor could be ferried back to these areas, especially in the states of Himachal as well as in Jammu and Kashmir, from where they will be taken towards Ladakh for the work to be completed. So certainly it is a messaging from the Indian government as well that no matter what happens.
There are multiple roads, Milan, where this road construction activity will happen. I have two of the finest voices on matters military and diplomacy joining me on the broadcast, and we'll get their reaction as well. I have Lieutenant General S.L. Narasimhan, member of the National Security Advisory Board, one of the finest voices on China, joining us on the broadcast. I also have Ambassador G. Parthasarathi, India's former High Commissioner to Pakistan, but someone who's worked on China desk at the Prime Minister's office, knows China very well, joining us on the broadcast. But before I come to our guests, let's quickly take a look at the situation on ground at the line of actual control. It's day 28 of the standoff between India and China. China's coercive tactics tactics, as some describe them, they continue across, of course, the line of actual control. There are some Chinese air bases that have been activated, some additional aircraft brought in. There are additional artillery pieces, we are told, and armored personal carriers, but all on the Chinese side of the line of actual control. Manjeet Singh Negi and Abhishek Bhalla with our top story tonight.
As the standoff on the line of actual control continues, there's no end to China's provocative actions. Intelligence sources have told India today that Chinese fighter jets have been flying abnormally close to the Ladakh border. The Chinese aircraft from the PLA Air Force based in Hotan and Gargungsa have been flying towards the eastern Ladakh area, the epicenter of the standoff. Reports are that the Chinese are using 10 to 12 each of their J-7 and J-11 fighter aircraft. Though the distance maintained from the border is not threatening, India is not taking any chances. On the Indian side, target acquisition batteries of defense forces and intelligence agencies are using unmanned aerial vehicles to carry out extensive reconnaissance on both sides of the line of actual control and Chinese positions along the Galwan Nala. All this is happening even as both sides feel that diplomacy is the only way to end the standoff.
Currently, the overall situation along the China-India border is stable and controllable. Both diplomatic and military communication channels between China and India on the border issue are open. We believe that the two sides can properly resolve the issue through dialogue and consultations.
China may be publicly softening its stance, but its intentions for peace will only be reflected when its troops withdraw from Ladakh and a status quo is maintained. With Manjeet Negi in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
We've seen the Chinese actions in Dolam in 2017. We've seen Chinese actions in Depsang, in Chumar, at Pengong So in the past. This one appears to be different in scale, perhaps even intensity. General Narasimhan, you know China like the back of your hand. What do you make of Chinese actions, and especially with their APCs, artillery, and now their aircraft being activated?
Thanks, Gaurav, to get me on this show. The activities that you watch on the Chinese front are quite normal in a situation like this. That is number one. This is also the exercise season for the PLA armed forces. And traditionally, they have been carrying out exercises in the area of Gargunsa, Chisil, Jilga, all those areas. However, one increased activity seems to be the numbers. They are a little more than what they are normally used to be, and particularly along the LAC. That is the difference that we see. And on the first day of the standoff that took place in the beginning of the month of May, there was also an increased level of aggression that one could. Beyond that, after that first day incident, there have been hardly any incidents like that on the ground. On the ground, the daily meetings are going on. As far as the aircraft is concerned, Gargunsa Airfield is one of the 7 airports that was marked for upgradation by the People's Republic of China, and probably that upgradation is taking place at this point in time to coincide with what is happening already in the border. As far as the aircraft flying is concerned, there is an agreement between both the countries that the fighters will not fly within 10 kilometers of the border, and that I think is being adhered to. So these are the things that we need to keep in mind when we discuss this situation.
Okay. Mr. Parthasarathy, how do you look at this situation when China, many may say, is trying to coerce India, intimidate India? India also sends out, what message does India actually send out when we're saying that 11 trains have been requisitioned, road construction activities to continue, and that is Minister of State, Road Transport General V.K. Singh, former Army Chief. He told me in no uncertain terms that road construction activity is in India's national interest and will continue.
Look, I think what has happened is the Chinese have got uneasy, perhaps even shaken by the extent of this road construction activity. It takes you up north to Chushul and ultimately ends up at Daulat Beg Oli two sort of air bases which they can't ignore. One being pretty close to the border. So I think this reaction has to be seen in that context. That there is a build-up. The Indians can't be allowed to do this beyond a certain point. But we are doing it in our territory, and right now it is just the Galwan River and the Pangong Lake. It's right now the Galwan River and the Pangong Lake. So I think it is restricted there, but the Chinese have become adventuristic. They have never quite, I think, and General Narasimhan will confirm, crossed this far. And my own feeling is that there is unease there. Let's not forget that all this has come alongside what happened in the World Health Organization when India joined others and actually got a vote of 130 or so against 60, which the Chinese never expected, to investigate the whole business of the emergence of the coronavirus in Wuhan.
Okay.
So this worried them. What we are doing, what we are looking ahead is worrying them.
Because the road construction activity has been on for quite some time.
So I think they have responded.
Because, you know,
but
road construction takes time. We've been talking about it. But, you know, is China using either the Daulat Beg Oldie airfield or the road construction as an excuse? Because this has been on for quite some time. China chooses to react now. Is it then time for India, and not just the government, not just the army, but the people of our country, to send out a message that India will boycott Made in China? Is it time for Swadeshi 2.0?
Boycott Chinese products. That's the top trend in India. Educator and innovator Sonam Wangchuk created massive buzz online after calling for a complete rejection of Chinese goods.
अब हमें जवाब देना होगा और जवाब हमें अपने हाथों में लेके वॉलेट पावर से देना होगा और ये कोई गलत या बुरी बात भी नहीं है। सैंक्शंस सदा प्रयोग किए जाते हैं जब भी कोई गलत करता है, वो चाहे देश हो। उत्तरी कोरिया पर सैंक्शंस लगाते हैं देश, तो हम क्या अपने पर्सनल इकोनॉमिक सैंक्शंस नहीं लगा सकते इन देशों पर? और बॉयकॉट करना कोई नई बात भी नहीं है। आपने सुना होगा स्वदेशी मूवमेंट, बॉयकॉट मूवमेंट तिलक जी के नेतृत्व में 1905 से शुरू हुई थी ब्रिटिश सरकार के खिलाफ बॉयकॉट का।
From uninstalling TikTok to not using Chinese goods in tech, Wangchuk's boycott China call went viral, with several celebrities joining the chorus.
People who endorses this, celebrities, they endorses Chinese products. They're doing it for money. At least they don't have to endorse and advertise it. And then, consumers who are their fans, will look at their, Bollywood or whatever idol, and then they say, oh, if my idol is saying this, then maybe I should go and buy it. So it's the celebrities, I think, if they start with not endorsing it for money, then it will live somewhere.
A big Chinese presence in India is in form of TikTok, which has more than 200 million subscribers and has overtaken YouTube in the Indian market. As India-China border tensions escalated, TikTok took off this video of comic Saloni Gaur.
बाबा ये चाइना कैसे नहीं मान रहा है? नहीं मतलब हम चिपचाप लिए जा रहे हैं तो कुछ भी भेजे जा रही है। पहले अपना अजीनोमोटो वाला खाना बेच के हमारी आते खराब कराई, फिर सस्ता फोन और टिकटॉक बेच के हमारा यूथ बर्बाद कर दिया, फिर ये कोरोना बेच के पूरा देश बंद करा दिया और अब सब धीरे धीरे सही हो ही रहा तो इन्हें हमारी जमीन चाहिए।
But reinstated it after outrage. Saloni now says she won't be going back to the Chinese social media platform.
I think I'll not be putting any content there now. I think I won't be using it because, when I saw that Sonam Wangchuk's video, he was correct. I totally agree with him that we should, reduce our dependency on all of these Chinese products. Slowly, we can move towards that because there is no harm in being a little self-reliant.
But is boycotting everything made in China possible? From electronics to pharma, most Indian industries rely on raw material coming from China. In 2018-19, India's trade with China stood at over $84,000 million. That's around 10% of India's total trade. Imports alone were valued at close to over $70,000 million, which is about 14% of total imports. And India exported goods worth nearly $17,000 million. That's about 5% of total exports. With no end to the Ladakh-China standoff, has time come to hit back at China, not with the bullet, but with the wallet? Bureau Report, India Today.
Is it time for Swadeshi 2.0? Is that possible? Jal Narasimhan, is it doable? What message will it send to China?
Firstly, we need to understand that India is a market economy, which allows free play of market. The second thing is even before COVID came into play, even before these incidents on the border took place, there have been movement to diversify the supply chain, not only from China, to diversify it properly. So that prospect is on.
Yes.
Now, after COVID and after this incident has happened, there will be more effort towards indigenizing a lot of issues. But indigenization does not take place overnight. It takes time. It takes development of capacities and capabilities. It needs education. It needs skill development. So therefore, it is going to take time. Other thing is the bilateral trade between India and China. We are in deficit trade of approximately $57 to $60 billion, depending on the year that you take. So this is something that we need to keep in mind, that we have been exporting around $10 to $12 billion, and we have been importing about $80 billion. That's something which has happened. So this trade imbalance also needs to be analyzed before we take a call like that. Even 3-4 years
reduce. Instead of buying substandard Chinese equipment, reduce. If customer is the king, then China must know how to treat the customer. And Ambassador Parthasarathy, if Indians rely on not buying cheap, inexpensive Chinese equipment, especially electronics, it will send a message to China. China is also facing a glut internally. It's facing trouble internally.
Let me put it this way, that, for example, if you take the cell phone industry, it is totally dominated by 4 Chinese companies, including Wuhan, including the Oppo, which leads the way. And therefore, I think the real problem is electronics. Our dependency on electronics is a strategic disaster. And how to replace it? The first thing we should have taken note of is a change which nobody is noting here. That at the swearing in of the Prime Minister of Taiwan, you had 2 members of parliament. That is a loud and clear signal. Now, which has been willing to, the place which has been willing to help us, especially in electronics, is Taiwan. And we have not followed up. Down to, the very basics of electronics, computer chips and semiconductors, we don't make in this country. And therefore you accumulate a deficit, as General Narasimhan says, of anything between $50 and $60 billion. That is an unaffordable deficit. And I think most people agree with that, including people in government.
Gradually. Start changing, start building capacities, start looking for alternatives.
New markets.
Okay, is that doable? We'll continue to debate this, but for the moment, General Narasimhan and Ambassador Parthasarathy, I need to switch focus to the other big story that we're tracking here on India Today. And that is military intelligence and the special cell of the Delhi police in a joint operation stinging Pakistan High Commission's visa officers. 2 of them have been detained. Of course, now they've been given 24 hours to go back, along with their driver. What were they up to? Who all have been compromised? That is the other big challenge for the intelligence agencies now.
Pakistan's visa officers at a popular restaurant in central Delhi's Karol Bagh area walked into a trap laid by military intelligence and special cell of the Delhi police. Abid Hussain and Mohammad Tahir Khan worked in the visa section of the Pakistan High Commission and had come to meet a contact to pay 15,000 rupees in cash in exchange for some documents from the army headquarters.
1705 FPO में तो नहीं रहे आप महाजन में?
नहीं सर, मैं पहली बार आया सर, ये मेरा पहला यूनिट है सर। मैं तो सर
वो भी इसी में लाइट एडी में था। अब ये 326 में हो ना अब?
हाँ जी सर, तो यहीं पे सर दिल्ली में है सर हम। आप कहाँ पे हैं सर?
मैं भी 1CPO मेरा हाल में दिल्ली में हूँ।
As the military intelligence team nabbed Abid Hussain, Mohammad Tahir ran towards the getaway car, 89 CD106, a Toyota Corolla Altis. Its windscreen cracked as army personnel blocked the getaway. Tahir claimed to have diplomatic immunity.
This is very shocking that they even possess the Indian Aadhaar card, etc. So we have to take very, very strict precautions. Now India is sending them back, and we have to ensure in future that this diplomatic immunity is not used for spying by the embassy staffs of any country.
15,000 rupees and an iPhone were recovered from their possession. Numbers, contacts and messages are being cross-checked. Being visa officers, they would gather information about relatives of Pakistani visa seekers. If one had a relative in the government or armed forces, they would seek an introduction and build contacts. Using fake Aadhaar cards, they would also go to Gopinath and Sadar Bazaar in Delhi cantonment and strike a conversation with soldiers on the pretext of either seeking information about recruitment or claiming to be relatives of ex-servicemen seeking help.
These people try and lure Indians with money, honey trapping them, trying to extract as much information as they can on the armed forces, railways, scientific installations, with the view to help them facilitate getting visas. We have to be vigilant. We have to make sure that none in India get lured by these ISI agents.
Tahir had been in India since 2016. Abid joined him in 2019. Their arrest may open the Pandora's box of a wider espionage network. The security agencies were successful in carrying out a sting operation, but this may just be the tip of the iceberg. With Munish and cameraman Kripal Singh in Delhi, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. Ambassador Parthasarathy, you are our High Commissioner in Pakistan. I want to know, is it so easy for visa officers to glean information? Visa seekers are told, you want a quick visa, tell us who all are in the armed forces or the government, then build a contact list and then try and compromise people. That was one modus operandi used by these two, along with Facebook chats with young women from Rawalpindi talking to soldiers here.
Well, let me say one thing, that these are small fry. In the Pakistan embassy in Delhi, the ISI cell is headed by no less than the military attaché. We've had one occasion of a military attaché of the rank of brigadier, honey trapped by us with ostensibly the Indian Order of Battle of the Indian Army. This was in the late 80s. He had to go back. He was sent back. He commanded troops later on in Siachen, and then he became a major general and was court-martialed for trying to overthrow Benazir Bhutto. So the guys they send here, don't forget.
But that's a very important point to make, Ambassador, that these may just be the small fries. The aim is to go after the big fries, and especially those who control them from Rawalpindi. Also clear and present danger of Facebook and social media being exploited to lure soldiers. We'll track that story, but that is all I have time for. General Narasimhan and Ambassador Parthasarathy for the moment. Many thanks for joining me. A quick break. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.